Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Welcome back to another fun episode of Next to Madison. I am so excited for this episode. We have the famous Greg Reid. He is an award-winning film producer, keynote speaker, and a best-selling author. He has been in over 150 books. He's written many books. He is the millionaire mentor. He's everything. He is inspiration. We talk about everything from the law of attraction versus the law of action. He talks about his stories where he sat down with some of the most successful billionaires in the world and what traits they had that made them a multi-billionaire and have legacies left behind versus somebody. And it's the action and the ingredients that he will lay out in this episode. So you do not want to miss this. This is something you want to bookmark, you want to save, and you also want to take notes. Greg Reid is freaking believable. I am so honored that he is here. We will be right back after this brief message with our guest on Next to Madison.
It's your host, Madison Malloy, and I have exciting news. My new product is now available on Amazon called Color Your Way to Abundance, a 21-day manifestation guide for wealth, health, and love. This unique coloring journal will help you manifest by coloring in the affirmations while you continue to repeat them. This will help activate these affirmations so they become a reality. Grab your copy today and relax, color, and start manifesting.
All right, we are back with our amazing guest. We have got award-winning author, filmmaker, and keynote speaker. The amazing Greg Reid is here. How are you?
And then the crowds go wild.
They go wild. How you doing?
So good, even I want to be me. Things are definitely in flow right now.
Okay, I love that. I love that. So I want to get into it. Can you just give us a quick, brief background about who you are, how you got to where you are today? Because you've written so many books, inspired so many people. You are the guy.
Well, let's begin with, for the people watching this, have never heard of me, don't feel bad. I'm not very popular at home either. I'm just a regular guy. And so I've been published now in 150 some odd titles, 45 languages. I have a star on the Walk of Fame, 2 honorary PhDs, and made an Oscar qualified film. Yet I'm kind of under the radar. And the whole idea in our circle is to focus on the message rather than the messenger. And so our whole idea is to give content and information. So a lot of people watching this have probably read my books. They just didn't know it was me.
Yeah. And what was your favorite book that you wrote? Because there's so many of them. Like, what is one that stands out?
Well, probably my first book. It was, and you've said it before we got on air. It was called The Millionaire Mentor. Is my first book.
Yeah.
And when you do a literary piece of art, you send it out to something called agents and distributors and publishing houses, and you write something called a query letter. It says who you are, what's your message, why you're an expert, who's going to read your book. I was turned down by 268 agents, publishers, and printers for my first book. And the 269th one said, we'll do it. Just change the title, the beginning, the middle, and the end part. It sucked. So I got a ghostwriter. They recrafted it and went on to literally inspire the lives of millions of people.
Oh my gosh. So what was that? Talk about that motivation, because so many people would have given up.
Well, it's so funny. I wrote the book called Stickability, The Power to Persevere, based on this. And so for me, there's first a dream, and then there's a challenge, and then comes victory. Unfortunately, most people quit in the challenging times. And I have a weird sixth sense that when I see something that is interesting to me and I decide to commit myself towards it, I don't let anything get in the way. So it doesn't make a difference. It's like being a skier on top of a hill, going to the clubhouse. I already know there's black ice and snow, skiers, and I know there's going to be moguls, there's going to be trees. I don't focus on that. So when I fall down, I just get up and keep going because I'm just getting to the clubhouse. And that's kind of the mindset that's got me to where I am.
That's amazing. So that was the mindset you had when you just kept getting rejected, but you knew you had a message that was going to change the lives of millions of people.
Yeah, and I took it on almost as a joke because, again, I had nothing to lose. I was
nothing.
I was pretty successful at the time. I was doing okay. So I go, all right, I'm not basing my life on this, but I go, how many more query letters can I send out to get more rejections? And so I started taping them to my wall. So when you walked in my office, it was wallpapered with rejection letters. And the ironic part of that is majority, well, not majority, but many of those people that turn me down are the ones that went on to publish some of my biggest works that have sold millions of copies.
I mean, that's amazing though. So yeah, it's just like it's the perseverance that you had
Yeah,
that is so amazing. Do you think you ever would have given up if you had been rejected by over 300?
no, it's so
You would
funny.
have just
Never
kept
let
going.
another person or yourself talk you out of what you know to be true. See, I didn't hope or wish or believe. I knew I was onto something. I just didn't know how to do it. Same thing when I made my first major feature film. I interviewed a guy named Frank Shankowitz who started a nonprofit called Make-A-Wish Foundation. It grants wishes to terminally ill
Yeah.
kids. And I asked him what his wish was, and he said, no one ever asked him. I says, well, I'll grant your wish. Anything you want, I'll give it to you. And he says, I just want my story to be told so my grandkids will know I did something. So he signed over his life rights. I said, I'll make this into a major film. Just know I've never made a feature film. And it took 6 years, but I wasn't going to stop. And when it came out in 2019, we made the ballot for the Oscars, and it's still trending worldwide right now after doing a year and a half on Netflix and the whole bit.
Well, congratulations on all that. I mean, that's just amazing. So what was the reason that they kept rejecting your first book, by the way? Was it because you were, in their eyes, not a published author yet?
It's because it absolutely sucked. Oh, I'm
Okay.
just yeah, I can't read, I can't write, I can't. If you play me Words with Friends, you'll win every time. And so, I mean, the book was like dog, boat, beaver, car. It didn't make sense. I didn't take it personally. So finally, when after all these rejections, I started calling the publishers and said, "Look, I know you're not going to do my book. No hard feelings. Just tell me what I could do better." And they go, "Man, you need a ghostwriter." What's that? So I got a ghostwriter. They recrafted it. So basically, my book was a boy wants a bike. He gets off his ass. He mows lawns. He makes money, buys a bike. My ghostwriters rewrote it. It was a glorious Sunday afternoon when a young bright-eyed lad caught the entrepreneurial dream as he went outside,
Yeah.
and they recrafted it. And one quote from that book was shared an estimated 37 million times. It says, a dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. It's on coffee mugs, t-shirts, bumper stickers, a quote that's been shared all around the world that was, again, turned down that many times.
That's amazing. So what is the message in that book that was so important to get out?
It was the principle of never giving up for myself. It really wasn't the message. For me, it was just a brain dump of the things that I learned along my own success journey. And one of the biggest things was that I wanted to teach people the greatest success we'll know is helping other people succeed and grow. And I know you see people walking in the background. I told you I got a house full of folks.
You're
So
good.
it is what it is. My son just got back from the hospital, so everyone's having a barbecue in the backyard.
Well, we're glad he's okay. Thank you so much for stepping away to share this. So let's talk about a wealth mindset
Mm.
because you focus a lot in on this. What what are the traits or the characteristics someone needs to have a wealth mindset? Like we're talking scarcity versus abundance, because most people are subconsciously programmed and operating on a scarcity level
Well,
without even realizing it.
yeah, I appreciate you asking that. I did another book. It was called Wealth Made Easy. And my co-author on that, who helped me write that, his name's Gary Krebs. He was the
Mhm.
former publisher of McGraw-Hill Publishing Corporation. Now, who can write a better book? Me or that guy, right? And so what we did is we sat down with people worth 100 million to $1 billion and asked them their little tips and
Yeah.
tools. And we kept finding that it was the most basic stuff. None of them were rocket scientists. So one guy said, how did you make $1 billion in dirt? And he says, time plus land is wealth. I said, what do you mean? He says, I look for a town anywhere in the world that's growing exponentially at 25% a year. Go on Google Maps, you could look it up, it's free. He goes, I look for Broadway, Main Street. I draw a line out 8 miles, I buy that dirt. I rent the dirt to farmers, they pay the lease on the land, and I get vegetables for many years. And as the town continues to grow at 25%, eventually it ends up on my plot. And since I'm on Broadway, Main Street, and I own the biggest amount of land, I resell that to big box stores for 800 times what I paid, $1 billion.
That's amazing. So what do you think was one of his traits that made him? Was it just the ability to think outside the box and do what other people aren't doing?
Delayed gratification also. And it's interesting. I got a tour around India with a guy named Tonino Lamborghini. Everyone knows the Lamborghini brand. And I
Yeah.
said, how is it that you and your dad created so much wealth and prosperity? And he says, all you've got to do is create a product, good, service, or experience that people will save their money to happily and hand it to you. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, no one's saving their money to buy your book. He goes, but they're cashing in their 401k to drive my car. He says, you're not going to pay $3,000 a night to live in your own apartment, but you're going to go to Anaheim and give it to a mouse with big ears. He goes, if you can create a product, good, service, or experience that people save their money to hand it to you, you can never run out of cash.
Wow. And who else was in this book that you interviewed that stood out?
No, it's countless people. I mean, the book
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Everyone from deep sea divers that got bitten by the bug of finding the gold balloons, whatever they call those things. See, you can tell I'm dyslexic. The balloons. I think that's something like that. Anyway, so the whole idea, I'm a regular wordsmith, public speaker. And what's
Yeah.
interesting is that the people, again, that I interviewed, none of them were like geniuses. What they did is they just saw an opportunity. They capitalize on it by surrounding themselves with the most amazing people along the journey.
Yeah, I think it's like those that take action. Because so many, I always felt like so many people are sitting on a great idea. Like I feel like everybody's sitting on some sort of great idea,
Hmm.
but only a few really will execute it. Because
And
I think fear and scarcity, or I don't know the right people, I don't have the money, I don't know the connections, I don't know how, where the difference is, those people did neither, but they took action and figured it out along the way.
yeah, it is the action in the law of attraction that makes our dreams come true. Think it, feel it, get off your ass, take action, got to do it. How many times have we had $1 million idea in the shower? By the time we brush our teeth, it's down the drain just to see it on a billboard 10 years later. The only difference between you and that person is one person acted. And it's that person that takes that massive forward steps. They're the ones that we tell the stories about.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk more about the law of action because we always hear about the law of attraction, right? Which is make a vision board and see it and attract it to you, raise your vibration. But you really want to focus in on the law of action.
I want to go back to law of attraction for just 1 second.
Okay.
So it was interesting. The person who wrote that whole segment was a guy named John Asseroff. And John Asseroff is one of my closest, dearest friends in The Secret. And he did the vision board and the whole bit. Everyone knows about it. Well, my son was just recently in a catastrophic bike accident where he has a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And while he was going through his therapy and defying all odds against medical comprehension, no one could understand his fast and speedy, healing process. Well, we realized one day the room across the hall, he would get all of his physical therapy. We walked out and looked up, and there was a placard, and that room was dedicated by John and Maria Asseroff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, tell me about it.
That's amazing. Amazing. So, okay, so let's go into, so that was, so the law of action.
And the law of action comes down to, again, it's taking forward steps and progress without having the exact knowledge of what's coming next. I interviewed a guy named Truett Cathy, and I don't know if you're setting me up intentionally to tell the story, but it's a good one. Truett Cathy started a company called Chick-fil-A Restaurants. We just had it for lunch.
Okay.
And I sat down with him at his compound, and I said, look, I go, Truett, I want to be a billionaire like you. What do I do differently? And he says, that's easy. He said, stop over planning. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, last year you had a lot of plans. I go, yeah. He goes, well, how did that work out for you? And he goes, 5 years ago, you had a master plan. He goes, I guarantee you hit goals from time to time because you're scrappy and you'll find a way to do it. But as it came, didn't go as expected. He goes, the secret of prosperity is to look for and capitalize on unexpected opportunities. He says, if I'm on my sofa and I want to get to the end of the street and that's my goal, he goes, I get off my ass and I take action. I move towards that quest. He goes, a planner is going to plan every step where they're going to pause, take a break. But if a sprinkler comes on, it goes against plan, they run back home. He goes, not me. He goes, I look forward to a kid leave a skateboard or a bicycle out that I could borrow to make my journey shorter. If I get real lucky, I'll wave down a neighbor driving by, hitch a ride to the end of the street. He says, either way, I'll get to my goal, but I'm not so caught up in exactly how it has to happen.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, yeah, but it is true, right? Because you're going to get delayed. And even over planning, I think it's a lot of people are waiting to open something till the conditions are perfect.
Exactly. And the timing is never right. At the end of the day, the best time to take action is the moment that truly it strikes you in your heart of heart. And then align yourself with people that have already accomplished what you want to do. Look, when I wanted to be a best-selling author, I went to the bookstore. I didn't go to the best written bookstores, bookshelves. I'm dyslexic. That had no comprehension to me. I went to the best-selling section and I called every one of those authors up and said, teach me the trick. What's the hook? What's the system here? Right. And they did. I duplicated it. And that's how I've created so many best-selling books because it all was a system. And once you learn it, then you can capitalize on it. But more importantly, then you can pass it on and help other people. And recently, I started my own publishing company and media company
Yes.
to help people do just that.
That's amazing. So what year was this when you started calling these authors? Because I feel like it'd be harder to get in touch with some of these people today, or maybe easier. I don't know.
Yeah, it's 100% easier because now with social media, I can get in touch with anyone instantaneously. So
Yeah.
that is so many people come up and go, it's easy for you because it's you. Everyone watching this has never heard of me. So bullshit. No one has heard of me that I reach out to. But here's how I do it. And I know I don't say it right, but it's specificity, the right way to say that. And here's what I do. If I want to get to the guy who started NASCAR or something like that, I say, hey, Mike, I need 12.5 minutes of your time. That's all. I'll cover all my own costs and expense to come see you. From the time I open the door till the time I leave, I'll start a stopwatch, 12 and a half minutes. I'm going to ask you one thing, X, Y, Z. The chance of him coming from his office to the break room goes up so high because it's specific. And when that
Wow.
12 and a half minutes goes off, I always honor that and say, all right, our time's up. Thank you for your time. And then always they ask you to extend. But by doing that's amazing. But here's the newsflash. No one wants their brain picked. No one wants to go to lunch with you. They don't want you to buy them dinner and they don't want to have coffee. But if you can be specific on that ask, the door's open. If I get off stage and there's, 1,000 people waiting to autograph book and take pictures, it's the most amazing thing. And they say the nicest thing. How can I work with you? How can I be of contribution? How can I be of service? I don't got 30 minutes for a resume check. Compared to that guy who walks up and says, hey man, liked your talk. I noticed you do really cool TikToks and Instagram and I make videos. Tell you what, I made a little sample for you. Maybe you could use it. Let me send it to your iPhone. Next thing you know, 8 seconds later, he's got my contacts. Boom, done. How fast did that take? And most people miss that golden opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's true. Because there's so many, you're right. Like, oh, I just want to like get some time or research. And people think that's kind of the right way. But yeah, being specific sets you apart.
Nobody
And
wants.
yeah. And I remember when you and I had talked offline, you were talking about your intro and how you introduced yourself when you were getting, when your book came out and you were getting all these television gigs. Because you're like, everyone's going to turn you down. They don't know who you are. So repeat that because it was so good. And it inspired me to change my
Oh
introduction.
my gosh, you're putting me on the spot because again, why don't you tell me what I said and then I'll regurgitate it a little bit.
Well, you would call and you would just say, I help people achieve their dreams by tapping into their millionaire mind. It
My
was something of that. Yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's basically called a name and a hook, and then you do an
Yeah.
elevator speech. So
Yeah.
when my first book called The Millionaire Mentor, I call up TV stations and I say, "Put me on your show," and they go, "Who are you?" I go, "I'm Greg." They call me the Millionaire Mentor. Like a hook. What's that? I say, I'm like the new Zig Ziglar. To get what you want, you help others get what they want first. I became a millionaire doing what my mentors taught me, and now I'm passing it on, so you could do it too. Pretty easy.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, that was different. But
Exactly.
no,
And I want what you have, which is the key element. A lot of people want to push down what you want. I wish I had a phone a book with me, but I'll just use my phone here. So
yeah.
we become a stabbing group. It's like this. I got a book, I got a business card. It's like
Yeah.
give you stuff, but you want to be you want to do attraction rather than promotion. And so I want people to ask me for what I'm offering rather than me having to push it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that I remember when we had that conversation, it inspired me so much because sometimes when you're just out and about and you're not at a business event and people will, naturally you meet people when you're out and the number one question people always say is, well, what do you do? And sometimes you're just burnt out, you don't want to talk about work, you're with your friends and I would catch myself and before we had talked, I would say, oh, well, like I write have some books and motivate people, like I have a podcast and, just whatever it takes to get it done. And somebody said, sound very excited about it. I said, well, I'm out. I don't really want to talk about work. And then we had that conversation. I was like, oh my gosh. I was exhausted because my answer was exhausted. My energy was low. And so it's like you came up with, it's like, what do you do? Oh, I'm Madison Malloy, and I help people get out of their own way because imposter syndrome is holding people back from living a life well fulfilled. I do it through my books, I do it through my podcast, and I do it through TV shows that I'm creating for the reality side. Now they're like, whoa, who the hell are you?
Right. And it sounds
Because of
legit.
you.
Right. And now it's legit and also attraction, right? Now people
Yeah.
are attracted to it. It's very, very interesting. Unfortunately, we're in the age today where people are judged by their clout and what they do. It's so interesting. I mean, I go to a lot of these highfalutin Beverly Hills red carpet things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I like you, it's like I don't like to say what I that stuff. And yet people won't treat you the same until they know what you've done. So for example, I tested, I would just go and be like, hey, my name's Greg. I'd love to, I saw you guys over talking over here. What are you guys rapping about? And you push me away. But I come over, hey, my name's Greg. I'm an international best-selling author. I couldn't help. I bet you got a story to tell. All of a sudden, it's a different engagement. It's so interesting.
No, it is. And that's why, that somebody had said, I read somewhere, it's like, people ask you what you do when you're out in public settings because they're determining how much respect to give you.
Yeah.
So sad, but so true.
Yeah, how much truth is that one? All right. Another question. I got to fly.
Okay, yes, you got to get back to your family. So tell us about your new publishing company.
Yeah, so it's called JVP, Joint Venture Publishing, jointventurepublishing.com. And the whole idea is that I decided I'm going to become a publisher for authors by authors because most people just don't give it to you straight. Just like you and I had a one quick conversation and transformed the way you present stuff. That's what I want to do for everybody because everyone's got a story to tell. And what's common sense to us is genius to somebody else. We're just waiting, to share it with the world. And one thing you said earlier about fear, Napoleon Hill, when he wrote Think and Grow Rich, his biggest chapter was his last one called The Six Ghosts of Fear. And I don't agree to the fears he talked about 100 years ago because it was the fear of loss of love. No one went crazy for getting divorced. So I don't agree with those. But today's ones, the top three are this: fear of pain. We will do anything and everything to avoid pain. Two, it's the fear of the unknown. You'll do anything and everything because you can handle yes, you can handle no. It's that maybe it drives you nuts. But the biggest one is the fear of criticism and judgment. And there's a sticker that says, what would you do if you could not fail? I say that's nothing. What would you do the moment you stop worrying about what people thought? And the funny thing is no one's thinking about you. They're dealing with their own demons, their own life situation. So the best time to do something with that idea, that concept that's been rattling in your brain is right now. And I run into people all day that say, I've been thinking about doing a book for years. And they go, what should you do? And I say the same thing. Don't do your book. Let me and my team set you down, pull it out of you, let them do that stuff that you struggle out, that they play at, so then you can have your project to go share it with others.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's done the right way. And then as far as, the book business has evolved so much. When you first did your book, you had to go to a traditional publisher. The royalties were very low, but you still had to market, but they were marketing more. But now nobody's really marketing and you're still getting the low royalties. So
it's funny you say that. I just got some commission checks in today.
Excellent.
Let me read these. Let me read these to you. Oh, that's for you. All right, we have royalties for 3 feet from gold, success from something great, $574.25. Royalties for Road to Riches, $84.18. And royalties for Thoughts or Things with Bob Proctor, $254.57. So people think you're going to get rich in books, but you don't. Here's what you do. You get rich by being in books. So for example, I've made, call it, high six figures in commissions and for royalties over the years. 100% I made some money. However, I've made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for being in those books. Why? Because people want to learn the people or meet the people that I met along the journey. So I started Secret Knock where they can come do that for $5,000 a ticket. You can meet the people I interviewed. Or guess what? Over here, you want to do your own project? Let me show you how. Or if you want me to come speak at your event for 30 grand, boom, I'll go do that. So at the end of the day, I've made many, many, many millions of dollars by being in books, but you don't make money from the books up front. And a lot of people don't understand that difference. And here's the final thing. A publisher's job is not to sell your book. That is always an author's responsibility. A publisher's job is to get it presented, available, and distributed. So when you present your book to other people, they can actually physically go buy it. That's what a publisher's job is. And once you know your roles and your lanes and learn how to go out to promote your book, things change. There's only 3 ways to sell a book today. 1, go speak, get in front of a bunch of people and they buy the room. 2, book clubs. 99.4% of all books sell 100 copies or less. That's all your family and friends will buy. But if you can find one book club with 100 members and they make yours the book of the month, there's 100 sales at one shot. And then 3, direct sales network marketing companies. If you find some group that has a 10,000 person downline, they recommend your book and a 10% buy, there's 1,000 books sold. And that's how, like, the biggest books of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich, all these books were sold and promoted doing it these ways. So what I like to do is sit authors down and go, let me show you the exact step and journey so they can duplicate it themselves.
Yeah, no, it's so genius because it's not just, putting it out there and hoping you're going to get rich and pay for it. But it's a calling card, it's a resume builder, it's something to get you into the room so you can then, open doors for other areas. So
like
that's
and get respect.
Yeah, exactly, right. That's exactly right. So where can people learn more information about you and contact you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's Greg S. Reid. And then my website is just my name, gregreid.com. Pretty easy. But the main thing is I want to say thank you for having me on. That was so cool of you. And like I said,
thank you for coming.
I got to jump back to the family. So it's
yes,
back.
I'm going to let you jump. So you hop off, you get back to the family. I'll wrap up this podcast. And I'm so honored that I had you here. You're such an inspiration. So thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye, Greg. Yes, the famous Greg Reid. I was so honored to have him in this. He's a very big name in the personal development space. He has changed so many people's lives, including mine. So that was very honored to have him. And he's not cheap for his time. So the fact that he came on and did this for free was wonderful. So I hope you guys learned something. You can go to his website. You can go to Amazon and check out all his books that are going to inspire you and teach you something so you can live abundantly. Take action, be inspired. Remember, this is your life. You get to decide how you want to live it. You get to decide how you see things and your perception. You get to decide what you do. Cut out the noise, go within and really focus on what it is that makes your heart sing. You got this life. Now make it good and go out and live. I appreciate every single one of you that tunes in every single week. Please like, comment, share this with your friends so we can keep bringing you great people to inspire you to be happier, healthier, and wealthier. We will see you next time on Next to Madison to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.